That's gospel. That's gospel. That's good news. Gospel is headline news. Gospel is notification on your iPhone kind of news. It's good news. It's the best news you've ever heard kind of news. It's calling your friend on the phone immediately kind of news. It's breaking news. It's the kind of news that you've been waiting for your entire life kind of news. Gospel is the best news of all. But as we know, often, in order to understand the power of good news, we must recognize the despair of bad news. In other words, in order for us to experience the power of gospel, the power of a God who breaks into history and showed us what love looked like, in order for us to embrace the good news of Jesus Christ, we must become deeply aware of our need and desperation. The moments of hopelessness. Bartimaeus knew those moments extremely well. He, the text tells us, had been blind from birth, and because of his blindness, he could not be part of the rhythms of community. These were days when folks who had any kind of issue like that were seen as pariahs to society. And so he was left to do nothing else but to sit at the entrance of Jericho and take his cloak and put it out so that people could take their chump change and drop it on that cloak. And at the end of the day, every day of his adult life, he would roll up the robe, and that was his sustenance. That's all he had. And you can imagine over time it just became his life, the rhythms of such a life. But then he began to hear about this guy named Jesus, who'd been going around the region doing amazing things. And among the amazing things that he was doing was he was healing folk. You heard the scuttlebutt around town. I don't know about Lincoln, but I know in the towns that I've normally lived in, there's an inner grapevine. I think Lincoln has one. You know what I'm saying? Like there's this little inner grapevine where you begin to hear something, even before it's actually happened or if it's going to happen at all, you begin to hear some stuff. And so Bartimaeus heard some stuff. That there was this guy named Jesus who was healing and doing amazing works of wonder, and that the talk is that he's coming into Jericho. All of a sudden, that daily ritual became a point of hopelessness. Could it be that I might be made whole again? He wondered. And you can imagine, can't you? When you're in that point of desperation, you can imagine, can't you, when that diagnosis came and or when you heard that your beloved mother or father were dying, or when your son and daughter could not shake that addiction, or when you got a call from your boss that you not to come to work on Monday. You know, don't you? That moment of utter despair. You can imagine that moment and you begin to wonder, Is there going to be good news? And then the grapevine was right. He hears that Jesus is indeed in Jericho, and he hears the crowds that are gathering, and he hears the commotion very clearly, and he begins to wonder, maybe, just maybe, this might be my day. And he shouts, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And the crowd, did you heard the crowd, right? What did the crowd do? Shh. I'm getting my miracle first. So I had a professor in seminary, Dr. Don Sailor. So if you're watching, Don, thank you. You've given me a lot of preaching tips. And one of the things he used to do during lectures was he would get off the subject a little bit, but he would make it sound really interesting. He would say, footnote, and then he would come to the other side of the classroom. So can I have a footnote with you today? It's interesting, ain't it? That sometimes we feel like good news is like pie that runs out. You know what I'm saying? Like we want our good news, and we want to make sure we get it first because we're afraid that if we give it up to somebody else, that then the good news will run out. And often in our privilege and often in the resources we have, we want to hoard good news. Well, that's a different sermon for another day, but I'm here to tell you today that good news, the gospel never, ever runs out. Now we're back. Jesus hears Bartimaeus and calls his name. And people of God, you can just see this sight. This guy who was hopeless, this guy who was desperate, this guy who had run out of choices, this guy who for a moment thought that this was going to be his lot in life, all of a sudden gets his name called. And the scripture tells us on this day, one of the most marvelous little things in all of scripture, that he literally sprung up. And he left, did you hear that? He left his cloak behind. He was so sure that Jesus was about to heal him that he left his sustenance behind. He was not going to need that little cloak no more because he was going to be made whole. And he faces Jesus. And I cannot tell you, sisters and brothers, how often I've thought about this passage in my own life. In those moments of hopelessness, in those moments of despair, in those moments of bad news, I've seen Jesus before me, and I've heard him say, Juan Carlos, what do you want me to do for you? What is it? How can you be made whole? What liberation do you need? And he says, I want to see again. I want to feel again. I want to love again. I want to trust again. I want to feel well again. Whatever the bad news, gospel tells us that there are good news. And we know, because after all, we know that good news is possible and available. We know that gospel can break into our own lives and in the lives of our communities, because after all, we've come this far by faith. We've come this far by faith. We have been on that wall before. We've seen people on that wall begging, wondering. We know bad news. We know desperation. We know despair. And we know we've come this far by faith. Not blind faith, not silly faith, not faith that's based upon nothingness, but we've come this far by faith because we've leaned on the Lord. And the Lord has always been faithful. Maybe not like we expected or like we would like, but the Lord has been there, present, from the beginning of time, creating and recreating. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in God's holy word. No, not the Bible you have in front of you, the Word made flesh that dwells among us. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in God's holy word. Here's the thing. This God has not failed us yet. Hasn't. And so, we cannot turn around. We cannot go back. We cannot hit repeat. We can't turn around. We can turn around because we've gotten this far by faith. We've experienced good news by faith. We've experienced freedom and liberation by faith, and new beginnings by faith, and hope by faith, because we've come this far by faith. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord. Come on, choir. Leaning on come on, church, trusting in His holy word. Trusting in His holy